students that are here. And thank you to the women of Western Jamaica for believing and wanting to be a part of this. Ambassador Shawnake Richards, Jamaica's ambassador in Japan. His Excellency Yashuro Atsumi, I hope I got that right. Not easy. Members of Time for Peace Project from the Peace Boat, and survivors of the A-bomb, Miss Indira Ajuda and the team here at the UWI Western Jamaica campus. Members of the media, good afternoon. For those who are visiting, welcome to the friendly city. We still call the city of Montego Bay the friendly city. It is my great honor and privilege to welcome you to the University of the West Indies Western Jamaica campus for this profoundly meaningful gathering, part of the 120th voyage of the Peace Boat. Today, we bear witness to history as voices of courage and resilience from Hiroshima and Nagasaki meet with the change makers of tomorrow, our bright students that are here in Montego Bay. And I want to just big up you students again. As Jamaicans, we are proud to host this global conversation for peace, justice, and nuclear disarmament. It is especially fitting that this lecture takes place here at UWI, an institution that cultivates critical thinkers and global citizens in partnership with peace builders from across the world. We are deeply honored to be joined today by our esteemed diplomats and survivors of unimaginable tragedy, the Ibakusha, whose testimonies have touched the hearts of thousands globally. Their presence here today reminds us that peace is not passive, it is active, it is intentional, and it is urgent. Ladies and gentlemen, students of Western Jamaica, because you're why we are here today, a big, big welcome. I now invite Ambassador Shawnake Richards to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Janet. Miss Janet Silvera, Chairperson of Women of Western Jamaica, His Excellency Yasuhiro Asumi, Ambassador of Japan to Jamaica, and my dear friend, Miss Indira Aduja, Administrator, UWI Western Campus, and of course the wonderful members of the Women of Western Jamaica, esteemed Hibakusha, Kurachan, I should say, and Watanabe-sama, and of course Tamu-san, and who is Cruise Director, and the Time for Peace project team from the Peace Boat. Esteemed students, members of the media, good afternoon. Mina-sama konnichiwa. Today, I am filled with joy to join you all as the Peace Boat visits my beloved island, Jamaica, and its beautiful second city, Montego Bay, the friendly city, as Janet has said. As a proud graduate of the University of the West Indies of Jamaica 31 years ago, I'm especially happy to be on its Western campus and to engage with students from this campus and other institutions across the parish of St. James. Special thanks to you, dear students, for being here today during your summer break. We are meeting here today for the cause of a nuclear-free world and for world peace, lasting peace. And I'm truly honored for the invitation to sail with the peace boat from New York to Montego Bay as a guest educator on its 120th voyage. And I feel especially privileged to do so as this voyage is commemorating the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II under the Time for Peace project to amplify the voices of those impacted by war past and present. Now, this project is connecting peace builders worldwide and fostering reflection on the past to build a peaceful future. And Jamaica and Jamaicans have a role to play. I am happy that the empowerment of the next generation of change makers, you students, is at the center of these efforts. Now, as we reflect on the past, what a privilege it is for Jamaica to welcome two courageous survivors of the atomic bombings of the Japanese cities of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, and Nagasaki on August 9, 1945. For the past 7 decades, the courageous Hibakusha have stood up and they have mobilized in their quest to save humanity. And they have been working tirelessly for a nuclear world, free world and lasting peace with one single objective: to prevent history from repeating itself. As you may all be aware, nuclear weapons are the most destructive weapons in the world. One can destroy a whole city, potentially killing millions and jeopardizing the natural environment and lives of future generations through its long-term catastrophic effects. Today, approximately 12,241 nuclear weapons reportedly remain in our world, more than 3 decades since the end of the Cold War. Also, there have been over 2,000 nuclear tests conducted to date, and notably the United States and Russia maintain roughly 900 of their arsenals on high alert, which means they are ready to launch within minutes of a warning. As the international community grapples to find funds to support the implementation of the SDGs, it is disheartening that the expenses of the nuclear weapon states to maintain these arsenals and in some instances modernize them surpasses US 100 billion annually. Just think about that. With the resurgence of geopolitical tensions, our world is in deep turmoil. Multilateralism, the UN, is under severe strain, and global powers are placing an over-reliance on military action. Even more concerning is that the threat of use of nuclear weapons is higher now more than it has been in decades. Indeed, the Peace Boat's Time for Peace project could not be more timely, as sadly our world today is once again, as I said, in a severe crisis and may well be on the brink, and we may well be on the brink of another world war. I believe that both states and civil society must use this 80th anniversary of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki to advance the norms against nuclear weapons despite this very challenging global environment. Nuclear disarmament is not just a matter for major powers. It's a matter of survival for all nations, large and small, developed and developing, nuclear armed and non-nuclear, including my own country, our country, Jamaica. Allow me to tell you a little about Jamaica's contribution to the cause of nuclear abolition and the promotion of world peace. Perhaps some of you may be asking, what does a small island state like our island, Jamaica, has to do with nuclear disarmament? And what influence, if any, can Jamaica wield in an era which is largely the domain of major powers in the international system? And you're quite right in asking this question. After all, as you know, Jamaica, we are known mainly around the world as an island paradise, and trust me, Montego Bay is quite an island paradise. for great reggae music, and of course, our great sprinters, and in Japan, people love the Cool Runnings bobsleigh team. Yes, Jamaica, our country, is that and more. In fact, during the Cold War, the country's reggae musicians, Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, in particular, were warning about the dangers of nuclear war and calling for world peace. Now, as a constructive member of the international community, Jamaica has sought to play an active role in global affairs, including on matters of peace, security, development, human rights, and climate change. Along with the countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, Jamaica, despite its relatively small size, has been a consistent and a very powerful voice in the international arena, advocating for a world free from nuclear weapons. Let me say a little about Jamaica's advocacy. Jamaica's foreign policy has, since independence in 1962, been guided by the principles of non-alignment, peaceful settlement of disputes, and a commitment to multilateralism. These principles naturally led Jamaica to adopt a strong stance against nuclear weapons. Jamaica's early advocacy was rooted in a deep understanding of its vulnerability and a moral conviction that nuclear weapons are incompatible with a just and peaceful world. Jamaica's moral stance stemmed from our history and culture, which values human life as a country that emerged from slavery and colonialism. In fact, Jamaica played a pioneering role in the fight against apartheid, becoming the first country to declare a trade embargo against South Africa in 1957 before we became an independent nation. And in 1963, barely a year after we became a member of the United Nations, Jamaica successfully proposed that 1968, I should say, be designated as the International Year of Human Rights to mark the 20th anniversary of the Declaration of Human Rights. And as some of you may know, we're one of the architects of the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, and we are the proud host, I should say, in Kingston of the International Seabed Authority. And Jamaica continues to champion oceans and law of the sea issues. Now, Jamaica's unwavering stance on nuclear abolition is rooted in the nation's awareness of the catastrophic humanitarian and environmental consequences of any use of nuclear weapons. And this threat disproportionately affects small island developing states like Jamaica. And let me say something about Jamaica's early advocacy on nuclear weapons, which dates back to 1962, the year we became independent. As you know, we are located right next to Cuba, and the threat of use of nuclear weapons, like that situation in Ukraine today, was on Jamaica's doorstep during the dark days of the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. Against the alarming backdrop of the Cuban Missile Crisis, Jamaica, as a newly independent state and responsibility for its foreign policy, was assertive in calling attention to the horrors of a nuclear war and questioned the logic of the uneasy balance of terror between opposing nuclear weapon states. In fact, in our very first policy statement to the United Nations in 1962, our then Foreign Minister, the Honorable Hugh Shearer, said, "We cannot banish the thought that someday, some madman, for it would take a madman to release the terrors of nuclear war, even on his most hated enemies, and he might press that fatal button and unleash the catastrophe of nuclear war upon us." This is Jamaica's strong voice from those early days. Now, quickly, let me share a few highlights of what we have been doing over the years. Jamaica is party to all the key treaties in the legal architecture on nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation. We are party to the 1967 Treaty of Tlatelolco, which makes Latin America and the Caribbean region a nuclear weapon-free zone, so there are no nuclear weapons in our region. We are also party to the 1968 Treaty on the Non-Proliferation Treaty. We have ratified the Comprehensive Test Ban Nuclear Treaty, and we have also been very vocal on the recent Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which was adopted in 2017. So beyond these treaty commitments, Jamaica has actively used its voice in international forums to advocate for nuclear disarmament. And Jamaican diplomats like myself, we have consistently called on nuclear weapon states to fulfill their disarmament obligations and we have worked to build consensus on this issue. In terms of CARICOM, and many of you may know that the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting will take place tomorrow here in Montego Bay, Jamaica has played a leadership role and has been opposed to the transshipment of nuclear material through the Caribbean Sea, and of course for the Caribbean to remain a peace-of zone. Now, beyond representing Jamaica's advocacy on nuclear weapons abolition, I have been actively involved on this issue. And the atomic bomb survivors, the Hibaksha, have helped me to find my voice. Please allow me to briefly share my story. In 2005, I was privileged to be accepted in the United Nations Disarmament Fellowship Program. And thanks to this fellowship program, I visited Hiroshima and Nagasaki, along with 29 other diplomats from around the world, junior diplomats. And during our study visit, I was exposed firsthand to Hiroshima and Nagasaki's stories of profound tragedy. Through our visit to the A-Bomb Museum, the Peace Park, and other memorial sites. And I heard firsthand the heart-wrenching and the courageous testimonies of the A-Bomb survivors. So this unforgettable experience of seeing with my own eyes the realities of the atomic bombing and experiencing the memories, the voices, the prayers of Hiroshima and Nagasaki broadened my awareness and deepened my understanding of the Hibaksha's warning that never again should anyone ever suffer as they did. And as I departed Japan in October 2005, 20 years ago, I took the Hibaksha's appeal with me, promising myself that going forward I would support the cause of nuclear weapons abolition in my work. And I'm so grateful to have had the chance to keep that promise, and it has defined and shaped my career towards the field of disarmament. My assignment as Jamaica's Deputy Ambassador to the United Nations in 2012 allowed me to turn the Hibaksha's appeal into action. While in New York, I became actively involved with the emerging initiative on the humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons. My engagement on this initiative was underpinned by the advocacy work of the International Campaign, a civil society group to abolish nuclear weapons, as well as the visionary work of countries like Mexico, Austria, and New Zealand. And later, I became very active in the process that led to the negotiations of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which was adopted in 2017. I am especially happy to tell you that Jamaica was one of the first countries to host, in collaboration with ICANN, this campaign, a regional roundtable on the humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons, while we were exploring the prospects for a treaty to ban nuclear weapons. And I had the unique opportunity of working with the ICANN team project, which, as a matter of fact, was held here in Montego Bay in August 2014 at the Hilton Rose Hall Hotel. And this roundtable served to prepare countries of the Caribbean region to be very active in advancing the humanitarian initiative on nuclear weapons. And at that time, I never imagined that 11 years later, I would be sailing together to Montego Bay with the Hibaksha, whose courageous testimonies and work for world peace inspired our 2014 gathering. I have come full circle. In fact, I never imagined that 15 years later, after my study visit to Japan, that I would return there as Jamaica's ambassador in September 2020. And since leaving New York in 2016, the topic of disarmament has remained with me. And I've participated in several disarmament-related panels in Austria, Mexico, United States, Japan, and elsewhere. Then in January 2022, and to my great honor, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres appointed me as a member of his advisory board on disarmament matters, and I became the chair of this board in January 2024. So upon hearing all of this, perhaps you can understand how humble I feel and emotional I feel to speak at this event. And this is a way for me to fulfill my promise and my pledge to Hibaksha. And I'm more determined than ever to work for the cause of nuclear abolition. In the face of today's global turmoil, the goal of a nuclear weapons-free world seems more elusive than ever. But dear students, colleagues, everyone, this is not the time for us to despair. The road to a nuclear weapons-free world is not only a marathon, it is also a relay race. This is what we call intergenerational work. It's only through collective action and a preparedness to pass the baton on to the next generation will we overcome inevitable setbacks and achieve meaningful progress. We must therefore continue to equip and empower the youth, including the Jamaican youth. Samaritan Peace Education matters. Dear students, today we will have the rare opportunity to hear directly the testimonies of the A-bomb survivors. And their tireless efforts for a world free of nuclear weapons serve as a reminder to us all that we must not relent in our pursuit for lasting peace. And I thank them for coming to Jamaica. I hope that in listening to their testimonies, you too will be inspired to support the cause of a nuclear-free world through your own action and activism. We must never give up the fight, as Bob Marley sang. Bob Marley, who was born on February 6, 1945, the very year of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, used his musical talents as a young man to advocate for world peace, to champion a world of equal rights and a world of justice. And as he exhorted in the very last song he performed during his untimely death, we should get up, stand up, and we should never give up the fight. So let us keep standing up for a world free of nuclear weapons. Let us keep standing up for world peace. Let us never, ever give up the fight. Thank you very much. Domo arigatou gozaimasu.
I'm the crew director of Peace Boat. My name is Miwako Tamura. Please call me Tamu. Thank you. First of all, I really would like to say to you, thank you very much for welcoming us in Jamaica. And of course, Shona Kay, which is our wonderful ambassador. Thank you so much. We already loved in Jamaica because of your lecture. She had a lot of lectures about Jamaica on board during 4 days. Every day had lectures about Jamaica and for nuclear-free world. So you had been teaching us a lot of things, not only to connect us with Jamaica, but also peaceful messages to make new nuclear-free world together. Thank you so much. And thank you very much, Atsumi Ambassador. And thank you, Janet-san. Thank you for coordinating this wonderful program. Thank you so much. Peacebot is an international NGO that was founded 42 years ago in Japan. Through our global voyages, we aim to foster grassroots connections and build a culture of peace that beyond borders. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. In this very important year, our journey is centered around the theme, Time for Peace. We are traveling with groups and individuals that are dedicated to conflict prevention and peace building, along with survivors of war, including Hibakusha, the atomic bomb survivors. Together we are reflecting on the painful lessons of the past and engaging in meaningful conversations about the importance of peace. And actually, Peace Boat was established in Japan in 1983 by university students like you. So since that time, we have held the belief that to meet with people is very important to make peace. Making friends is the most important thing. Foster peaceful heart in your mind. So I hope you young generation, please make a lot of friends in around the world. The fact is making peace, definitely. Thank you very much.
名前は渡辺純子です。私はブラジルに住んでますけど、被爆者としてブラジルで活動を続けております。
Hello, my name is Junko Watanabe. I am a hibakusha currently living in Brazil, and I am active in my hibakusha activities in Brazil.
まずはじめにリチャード大使、今日は私たちのためにこんなお時間を割いてセッティングしていただき、心からお礼申し上げます。
First of all, thank you, Ambassador Shona K. Richards, for organizing this amazing event for us and for taking your time to set this up for us. So I'm very, very grateful. Thank you.
またジャマイカの国がこの核禁条約に早くから署名批准していただき、心からお礼申し上げます。
Also, thank you to everyone here because I know that Jamaica as a country has ratified and signed the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons from the very beginning of the treaty. So thank you to you all. Thank you, Jamaica.
私は本当に原爆が投下されて自分の記憶はないんですよね。
Because I was a very small child when the atomic bomb was dropped, I don't have a personal memory of the event.
それでもこの活動を続けているうちにいろんなことを吸収しながら今日の被爆証言に至りましたので、どうぞお話を聞いていただきたいと思います。
However, through my many activities, I have learned many things and absorbed many things, and I have built up my own testimony. So I would be grateful if you could lend a ear to my story today.
はい、広島に原爆が落ちた時は私は2歳でした。そして原爆投下地点からその時18キロ離れた田舎の方に住んでいました。1945年8月6日、とても良い天気で母は血のみ子を弟を抱いて庭の前にいました。そして私と私の2歳上の年の兄は一緒にお友達と一緒にお宮の前で遊んでいました。
When the atomic bomb was dropped on my hometown, Hiroshima, I was merely 2 years old, and our house was located in the countryside, 18 kilometers away from the hypocenter of the bomb. On August 6, 1945, I remember that it was very good weather. My mother was holding my little infant, unweaned brother. She was holding my brother in front of our house in the garden. And myself and my older brother, who was at that time 2 years older than me, we were playing in front of a shrine in front of our house with our friends.
8時15分過ぎ、急に強い風が吹いてきて、たくさんの焼け焦げた紙が舞い落ちながらたくさん落ちてくるんで、母はびっくりして、その時すぐ私と兄を迎えに来ました。その時に黒い雨が降ってきました。
Just around after 8:15 in the morning, there was a very strong wind. And then all of a sudden, burnt pieces of paper came fluttering from the sky. And we were very surprised. My mother was very shocked, and she came to pick up my brother and I. And that was when the black rain started to fall. The tips of their nails, they walked around looking for water, like ghosts. Some people, their eyeballs fell out of their sockets. And then some people were holding their own intestines, their intestines that had fallen out of their stomachs, walking around and finally dying. Countless small black objects lying on the ground. And in the dim darkness, small children, and we don't know if it was impossible to tell whether it was girls or boys, walking around, opening their mouths, calling for their parents. And when I saw that video, I saw myself reflected in one of those small children walking around, calling for my mother. And I couldn't help but feel endlessly. I couldn't, and I saw myself reflected in one of the figures of those children.
My name is Miwako Tamura from Peace Boat. I'm the crew director of Peace Boat. Peace Boat aim to sustainable, peaceful world through our global voyages 3 times a year. We have many passengers from East Asian countries, and we have many lectures by guest educators to considering about peace. And now it is time for peace, because in the world, unfortunately, there is a lot of terrible things in Ukraine, Gaza, and Iran, around the world. So it is time for peace. We, civil society, government, and around the world, people connected to make peace, communicate, and open dialogue for make peace.
Good afternoon, hello everyone, and I should say in Japanese, Minasama konnichiwa. I am Shorna K. Richards, Jamaica's ambassador to Japan. I've been ambassador to Japan since September 2020. And I'm happy that this year Peace Boat has invited me to join their 120th voyage around the world as they mark the end of World War II and, of course, remember the horrific bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And they're doing so under a Time for Peace project, and they have invited me to be a guest educator on their journey from the New York to Jamaica leg, to the Montego Bay leg. On this voyage, I've been very privileged to speak about Jamaica's contribution to a world free of nuclear weapons. I've also been able to speak about Jamaica, talking about Jamaican culture, music. But when it comes to nuclear weapons, Jamaica has been a long-standing voice in the international arena at the United Nations, supporting the abolition of nuclear weapons. And I myself have served at United Nations, and I have been part of the negotiations on the Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons that prohibit nuclear weapons. I am very proud that as a small island developing state and as an active and constructive part of the international system, Jamaica has been steadfast, has lent its moral voice and its authority to advocate for a world free of nuclear weapons and to promote peace, and to promote not only Latin America and the Caribbean as zone of peace, but the entire world. And I'm also proud that our musicians over the many years, including Bob Marley and Peter Tosh, who are civil society, were very active in singing against a nuclear war and in calling for world peace. And as I've shared with many Japanese and everybody around the world, that we should never give up the fight for a world free of nuclear weapons. We are now faced with a world in turmoil. We're seeing increase in war and conflicts. We're seeing division, geopolitical tensions. But now is the time for Jamaica and other countries to come together and reject these inhumane and indiscriminate weapons, and to really promote and amplify conflict prevention and, of course, equal rights and justice, because these are the preconditions, as Peter Tosh sung, that we need equal rights and justice for us to achieve lasting and enduring peace. The 80th anniversary of the horrific bombings of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and the end of World War II, the 80th anniversary, is a powerful reminder that war past and war present does not serve humanity, that war is not a solution, that the expenditure of resources on wars that we're seeing in Ukraine, in the Middle East, is not the way that we should go about as an international community to solve our differences. We in Jamaica and countries of the global south, we are calling for dialogue. We are calling for diplomacy. We are asking that we should reform the multilateral system, that we should uphold a rules-based international order that put dialogue as its primacy in terms of solving our challenges that the human community is facing.